Brookwood Cemetery in Surrey, the home county's end to what was to be the largest burial business in London ever. The city end, this building just outside Waterloo Station, head office of the London Necropolis Company. Through this portal, entryway and up the special lifts, passed over 250,000 coffins between 1854 and the Second World War. It was a unique business enterprise, providing funeral services and a trip on the railway. All that remains today of this stairway to heaven is this cast iron staircase up to the now abandoned railway siding above London Shops, which was then the station.
This is the site of the Necropolis station, and this station served Brookwood Cemetery right through until 1941, when the site was bombed during the Second World War. And it was from this station that funerals would be catered for, coming in at the main entrance at 121 Westminster Bridge Road. They'd go through the station itself, and coffins and mourners would be taken up to platform level, and they would then join one of the private funeral trains that would left the station on a daily basis. The station was built in the first place because of the problem of London's dead. The cemetery at Brookwood was designed to be London's only cemetery. The original intention was that over 2,000 acres of Surrey's common land would be set aside to bury all of London's dead forever.
It was a bold solution to a pressing problem. London was the fastest growing city in the world, which meant not just more births, but more deaths. But the city was fast running out of space to bury the bodies.
London's burial problem was a totally inadequate area of burial grounds within central London, which amounted to under 400 acres to bury some 55,000 Londoners who died every year in the 1850s. There was a huge pressure, burial congestion, to squeeze these bodies into an inadequate space in the centre of London.
So the idea was to bury them in the countryside outside London, where land was cheap and plentiful, and to provide a train service for mourners to the cemetery.
For the journey down to Brookwood, it was necessary for everyone on the train to be issued with special railway tickets. The mourners obviously were issued with returns, but the coffin tickets were just singles.
The company had special funeral trains, with 5 carriages for the mourners and 2 carriages to carry the coffins.
This, for many thousands of Londoners, was literally journey's end. This is the site of South Station, which was the terminus of the cemetery railway. The trains would come in from the direction of Brookwood Station, coming in here and stopping at the end of the platform. Mourners would alight, accompanied by trained members of the Necropolis Company, who would escort them into a private waiting room whilst they awaited the funeral service, which either took place in the adjacent chapel or at the graveside. Obviously, the appropriate coffins, the remaining coffins in the hearse carriages, would be taken out of the train at this stage. And there is an interesting feature surviving on the platform edge, where there are 2 types of brick, square cuts here a rounded edge, which forms the central dip or lower section of the platform, which is where the hearse carriages were stopped and the coffins removed from the vans. They'd be escorted to the adjacent chapel or to the graveside for the final committal.
250,000 Londoners lie buried here. For a brief period during the Victorian era, it was the foremost cemetery for London.
Burials here reflect all levels of what is effectively a lost society. At one extent you have paupers in their unmarked but individual grave spaces, and at the other extreme you have one of the masters of Queen Victoria's household. At one stage it was known as the Westminster Abbey of the middle classes.
Ultimately, the cemetery failed commercially. More graveyards were opened in London, and people found it inconvenient to have to take a trip out into the country to lay a wreath at a graveside. Today, it's a tribute to the Victorians' belief that all challenges are surmountable.